What is up, guys? Welcome back to another GeekaWhat video. In this video, I'm going to be building a $1,000 gaming PC that you might actually be able to buy in 2022. I'll be walking you through all the components I selected and how we picked them up in budget for this system. With some great parts that includes the new i5-12400F and an AMD 6600 XT, this build is poised for high frame rate 1080p gaming, smashing through some of the latest AAA titles. We'll be looking at performance in more detail later on. For now, let's kick off the build by taking a look at the storage, the motherboard, the CPU, and of course our RAM or memory, our four key components that make up the motherboard assembly. In particular, let's actually look at the CPU and motherboard first. The i5-12400F is Intel's entry-level i5 offering on the new 12th gen architecture. With Intel's latest performance and efficiency cores and high clock speeds that give good single-threaded performance, Intel have re-established themselves as the king of gaming CPUs. So much so that I think AMD are going to struggle to catch up with their Zen 4 release, which is expected in the fairly immediate term. Now, one of the huge advantages of these new 12th gen chips is this. Not specifically the Prime B660M, but the B660 chipset in general. Previously with Intel releases back in 10th gen, you couldn't overclock the CPU or the memory on cheaper motherboards. 11th gen they added RAM support, and now 12th gen they've added both. And that makes something like this, the Prime B660M AD4 from Asus, a really solid choice. It still gives you Gen 4 support for your SSD, meaning you can add super fast drives like Seagate's FireCuda 530, or our choice for this build, the WD Black SN850, but more on that later, we're getting ahead of ourselves. 4 RAM DIMM slots, a decent I/O, and a bare bones design that still ticks the boxes we need it to, makes it an awesome choice. And it of course officially supports our 12400F. Quite possibly the most important part of the puzzle. Once the processor's in, we can then move on to the RAM or the memory. A 16GB 3200MHz kit of Corsair Vengeance RGB Pro in white. Now we're going to install it into the 2nd and 4th DIMMs on this motherboard, the grey ones, and we can do so nice and easily by sliding it in, applying some pressure, and clicking it into place. Repeat this for as many RAM DIMMs as you've got, just the 2 for us today, with an extra 2 left later for future upgrades and all that jazz. Now we can finally... Let's try that one again, shall we? With that done, we can finally move on to the Gen 4 SSD, WD's SN850 Black. Now you could go Gen 3, save yourself a bit of cash, but a 500GB or 1TB Gen 4 drive will give you like Sonic level speeds. It's pretty obscene. This board actually has a built-in PCIe 4 M.2 shield. We're going to take this off and don't need to reinstall it, as our SSD has a heatsink of its own. And for this stage, you'll have to ditch your large, big, full-size screwdriver, goodbye, and you need one of these instead, a teeny tiny screwdriver. Let me know, by the way, in the comments if you'd like to see a custom GeekaWhat teeny tiny screwdriver for sale. Now that's an idea. The M.2 SSD is actually not the last component we'll be installing onto the board. The CPU cooler is instead. Now you could stick with the stock cooler, and Intel have made a great effort. Wait there, it's just over here. They've made a fantastic effort with their new coolers to really innovate and bring something better to the market than they had before. Rival AMD even. But they're still not quite there as far as cooling capacity and especially noise goes, making a dedicated Hyper 212 a good bet. Something from the likes of Be Quiet or Deep Cool will also work well. For us though, I like Cooler Master's stuff. It's always very, very solid. The installation process is not super simple, but it's also not mega complex either. And I'm going to walk you through it step by step. Step 1 is to take your backplate. Now this here has sort of a side that I call the scaffolding side and the solid side. With the scaffolding side facing towards your motherboard, you need to install these 4 screws on each corner, and they're held on by plastic stoppers. You'll then see this more easily if we flip the motherboard over, and this backplate is going to pop through each of those 4 holes. That's a little something like this. You can see here, that's now nice and securely clamped to the rear of the board, and we can flip things over nice and easily. Pop it back onto your motherboard box, and that will hold the backplate in place. You can see our 4 silver screws are still poking nicely through. Then take these included female to female screws and pop these on each corner around your CPU. We can then round things off by taking the plate of the cooler itself and then adding on these brackets. Now these brackets screw in from the bottom and they go on both sides. Once they're in, in, the cooler itself will sit on top of the female post we screwed in a moment ago. A drop of thermal paste and you can secure the cooler into place. It really is nice and simple. The Hyper 212 is not a bad cooler whatsoever to install. It also looks really good in the finished build, so that's always a huge bonus. Once the motherboard assembly is complete, we can move on to the case or the chassis. Bitfenix's Prodigy M 2022. Now, this was my favourite case back in the day. Check out some of the early builds I did on the channel back when I was very young and just a teenager. I loved PC stuff back then, I still love it now, and the remaster of this case fixes everything I wanted Bitfenix to sort out back in 2016. It adds tempered glass, stronger handles, really cool aesthetic. Not going to be a case for everyone, but it feels retro, it feels cool, and heck, it's just a little bit different. I'm going to lay the case down flat to make the next portion of the build easier, and take out my handy electric screwdriver to actually remove the screws for both of the side panels. That was a lot louder than I thought, to remove the screws for both of the side panels. Importantly, this glass one, which we'll be using to take out and install the motherboard. It's at this stage of proceedings that you want to locate each of the standoffs in the case. Sorry about the messy wires everywhere for this build. And then you want to match these up with the corresponding standoffs on the motherboard. Today we've got 3 at the top, 3 along the middle, and 2 across the bottom. And these match up nicely with our Asus board. We can then go ahead and grab the board itself, screws flying everywhere for some reason, and actually slide it into place. Pop it through your rear I/O shield and onto the center standoff, and then you can screw it in using the included screws with this lovely Bitfenix chassis. Nice and easy, 3 at the top, 3 along the middle, and 2 down the bottom. And once that's done, we can move on to the graphics card. For this build, I've gone and selected the Radeon RX 6600 XT. Here in the UK, retailers are selling these in stock for about £450, so about $500. That's not to say they're the easiest thing in the world to get hold of, but GPU is getting a bit better day by day. There's still a long way to go, but I really believe 2022 will be the year things change for the better for gamers in a significantly tangible way. Now this right here is a great card for 1080p and even a bit of 1440p gaming, and stacks up nicely against the landscape of 3060 and 3060 Ti. You can see this card here is the Gigabyte Eagle model, and now that I'm actually looking at it, it's longer than I'd remember it being. So I hope that it actually will fit in the case. Oh yeah, never in doubt whatsoever. Let me clear this mess off the table and then we'll install our lovely little 6600 XT. Okay, that's looking pretty decent. One thing I forgot when I installed the motherboard is that the CPU cooler is now upside down because the whole case is inverted. On the plus side, it means we've got lots of air coming down into our GPU, but we will be able to spin the cooler around to make sure the logo is the proper way up. Just a small touch, but something that will help round the build off nicely. For now though, we've only got one more component left to install. We've got to round the build off, and we're going to do that by installing the power supply. Corsair's CX650F is our PSU of choice. You've got a few options here, to be honest with you. You can either go for the black version I've gone for, or to do a white one as well with white cables that you might find works better for your build. I quite like the two-tone white and black aesthetic though, and I think an all-white build can occasionally be too much. I say that, we are publishing an all-white build this week which looks sick, so make sure you get subscribed and don't miss that one. I'm not going to dive into too much detail in terms of cables and wiring in this video, but as usual, make sure you power up your CPU, GPU and motherboard, the 3 core components. This power supply is also modular, as you can see, meaning we only plug in the cables we actually need to use. You will need to then just take off the feet off one side of the case to actually screw the PSU in, and it will pull in fresh air from the front side of our lovely Prodigy M 2022. And once that's done, we can boot the system up for the first time and check out performance very, very shortly. First though, we need to see just how good it actually looks when it's all powered up, in the only way we know how, an epic glam montage. I'll see you in a sec, but first, roll that montage. Looking awesome. We've seen how good the system looks and we've seen how to put it together. But just how well does it perform? Well, that's the next question I'm going to be answering. And to do so, I'm going to flash up a summary on your screen now of all the different games we tested out and the numbers we were able to achieve. If you'd like to see the full unedited benchmark runs, 8-minute, 10-minute videos for all the games discussed, you can find those on our benchmarking channel too, which I'll link in the description below and in the cards section now. For now though, I'm going to take a closer look at just a few of these titles, starting off with GTA 5, a game where we tested out at 1080p high settings. We pulled in 146 frames per second on average, very respectable result, with 137 and 119 for the 90 and 99th percentiles. It was a similarly positive story in Battlefield 2042, where at 1080p high we achieved 107 frames per second. The game once again looked great, with 88 and 73 rounding off our frame rate numbers, and showing that we had a consistent experience where we weren't really dropping a great deal of frames. COD Vanguard is next up today, here at 1080p, you guessed it, high settings. We achieved 133 frames per second, as the 6600 XT shows its nous in those latest AAA titles. Talking of latest and AAA titles, Forza Horizon 5. Here we pulled in 94 frames per second on average, with 90 and 75 for the 90 and 99th percentiles. Moving on to Apex Legends next up, more an esports first-person shooter title. Here at 1080p high, we pulled in 152 frames per second. This is a game where to achieve more than 140 is actually quite tricky. Apex is much harder to run than a Valorant or a Fortnite, the two next games on the list, but the results here were still very good. Valorant is the penultimate title, the one but last we're going to look at, and here at 1080p high settings, we pulled in 333 frames per second. All the threes. Valorant looked great at 1080p high too, which always helps. And then finally, to wrap things up, we tested out a bit of Fortnite at 1080p competitive settings. Everything tuned down to low, but the render distance set to far to maximise viewing distance and frame rate. Here we pulled in 230 FPS, because of course we did. Perfect for a 165Hz monitor, or even higher in the refresh rate department. But with that, that pretty much wraps it up for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a big old like rating, get subscribed. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.